It's a very interesting script and a way to do characters in a Western that was quite a bit different.
Few figures have carried American cinema on their shoulders the way Clint Eastwood has. He arrived as a rawbone TV cowboy.
I've been very fortunate in my life to be able to play in Westerns because I've been able to release my fantasies through acting in them.
Detonated the spaghetti Western myth, then quietly built a second life as a director who won Oscars by doing the opposite of Hollywood noise.
He says, I don't want to do any more violent pictures. I'm tired of it. I'm going to read it again because I think we can make a great statement against violence.
Eastwood doesn't oversell. He doesn't gush. For decades, he's been the guy who lets silences do the talking, on screen and off. That's why this list hits different. When he does admit admiration, it's never a casual compliment. It's a clue, a breadcrumb trail back to the kind of acting he believes in. Truth without decoration, danger without performance flashing, and emotion that leaks out only when it has to. Over the years, a handful of names kept surfacing in his interviews. The actors he watched as a kid, the ones he stole timing from, the ones who taught him what a real screen presence is. Put those pieces together and you get his private pantheon. 6 faces, 6 lessons, and if you stay to the end, you'll see why Eastwood's entire career is basically an echo of these men. Number 6. Burgess Meredith. Eastwood's list doesn't start with a glamorous icon. It starts with a performance that hit him before he even knew what acting was. As a boy, Clint was obsessed with Steinbeck stories, and the 1939 film of Mice and Men left a mark on him. Specifically Burgess Meredith's work as George Milton. Eastwood still calls that performance something that stands up today, the kind that doesn't age because it doesn't rely on tricks. Meredith wasn't selling charm. He was selling exhaustion, loyalty, and the brutal tenderness of a man trapped by his promises. It's the exact emotional temperature Eastwood would later chase in his own characters. Men who don't explain themselves. Men who carry their whole life in the way they look at the ground before they speak. Meredith showed him that vulnerability can be tough, and that pain doesn't need a big speech to be unforgettable. And that's the quiet genius of starting here. Eastwood's idea of greatness begins with human weight, not star power. But once he learned how to play fragility without softness, he went looking for something else, something faster, sharper, a kind of cinematic electricity. Number 5. James Cagney. If you ask Eastwood about favorites, there's one name he keeps returning to like a reflex: James Cagney. He has flat out called Cagney his favorite actor growing up, and he didn't say it politely, he said it like a believer. In one famous reflection, Eastwood described Cagney's style as fearless, and even joked that movies were basically invented for him. What he loved wasn't the gangster image or the swagger, it was the energy. Cagney moved like a fuse. He could turn a scene violent or hilarious in half a breath. Eastwood once pointed to White Heat, describing Cagney eating a chicken leg moments before blasting a guy offsetting, but in a nice way. And then he admitted something only great artists admit. He stole that rhythm. The hot dog during shootout moment in Dirty Harry, Eastwood said that was a straight lift from Cagney. So why does this matter? Because Eastwood's screen persona is the negative imprint of Cagney. Cagney externalized danger, Eastwood internalized it. The speed got compressed into stillness. The fuse got buried under a calm face. But the timing, that lethal snap, came from Jimmy. And once Eastwood understood movement and danger, he needed the next ingredient: moral gravity. The kind you don't act at the camera, you just carry. Number 4. Henry Fonda. Eastwood has said it plainly. He loved Henry Fonda. As a kid, The Grapes of Wrath floored him. He was impressed by how Fonda could stand in a scene and make dignity feel real without ever pushing for sympathy. Eastwood remembers that film as a defining early influence. Fonda's power wasn't volume, it was conviction. He played men who looked like they'd rather keep walking than give a speech. But when they stopped, you believed the world had shifted. That's why Eastwood's later characters feel like descendants of Fonda's Tom Joad. Men who don't want to be symbols, but become them anyway. Think about Eastwood's directing too. Unforgiven doesn't romanticize morality, it portrays it as something that cost you sleep. $1 Million Baby doesn't shout its tragedy, it lets it settle. That's Fonda's influence in Eastwood's bones. The belief that goodness is heavy, and that principles feel more devastating when they're quiet. But Eastwood wasn't building just a moral spine. He was building a Western spine. For that he needed the actor who defined the silent hero before Eastwood ever stepped on a set. Number 3. Gary Cooper. Eastwood's father took him to see Sergeant York, and Eastwood has never forgotten what that felt like, because Gary Cooper wasn't just starring in a movie, he was showing Clint what restraint could do. Eastwood has said that Sergeant York was a childhood imprint, and he's repeatedly pointed to Cooper as one of his key inspirations from the old studio era. Cooper's greatness is simple to describe, but almost impossible to replicate. He could be heroic without performing heroism. He didn't beg for your attention. He earned it by refusing to decorate the truth. You watch Cooper and feel like the camera caught a man thinking, not a man acting. That philosophy later becomes Eastwood's whole brand. The Man with No Name is basically Cooper stripped to myth. The older Eastwood heroes, the tired gunfighters, the reluctant protectors, are Cooper's stoicism aged into regret. Cooper gave him the skeleton of the Western hero. But Eastwood's list isn't only about youth. It's also about the actors who proved greatness up close, on his own sets. And no one left a deeper scar in that category than the man at number 2. Number 2. Gene Hackman. When Gene Hackman died in February 2025, Eastwood didn't issue a generic tribute. He issued a verdict. He called Hackman the finest actor, praised his intensity and instinct, and said he never hit a false note. That sentence tells you everything about Eastwood's taste. Hackman didn't act big, he acted true. In Unforgiven, his sheriff Little Bill isn't evil in a cartoon way. He's terrifying because he believes he's right. That kind of performance doesn't come from technique alone. It comes from a person who trusts his gut more than his vanity. Eastwood loves actors you can shoot in rehearsal. He loves people who don't need 10 takes to find it. In the same interview where he praised Fonda and Cooper, Eastwood also talked about Hackman's effortless honesty, the kind of actor you build a whole film around without fear. So Hackman stands here as Eastwood's modern peer god, proof that realism can still punch like a classic western. But the final spot? That one belongs to an older ghost, a man whose aura Eastwood kept chasing for decades. Because this is the actor who made Clint fall in love with stillness itself. Number 1. Robert Mitchum. Eastwood has always gravitated toward actors who look like they're not trying, and no one wore that kind of effortless danger better than Robert Mitchum. Mitchum is frequently cited, including by major film historians, as one of Eastwood's favorite classic actors, a model for that don't act, just be presence. Watch Mitchum for 5 minutes and you get the lesson. He didn't play cool, he was cool. He could be a hero, an anti-hero, or a predator, and it all felt like the same man walking deeper into shadow. His face carried a lazy threat even when he smiled. His pauses did more work than dialogue. That's the Eastwood blueprint. The glance before violence, the silence after a moral choice. The sense that danger doesn't announce itself, it just arrives. Mitchum proved you could command a scene by lowering the temperature instead of raising it, and Eastwood built an entire career on that temperature. So if you ever wondered why Eastwood's performances feel like gravity instead of fireworks, this is why. Mitchum wasn't a style Eastwood admired, he was a style Eastwood inherited. Put these 6 together and you see Eastwood's secret syllabus. Meredith taught him that weakness can be steel. Cagney taught him timing and fearless energy. Fonda taught him moral weight without speech-making. Cooper taught him heroic stillness. Hackman taught him instinctive truth under pressure. And Mitchum taught him the final trick, that the most dangerous presence is the one that doesn't beg to be seen. Eastwood's list isn't random nostalgia. It's a map of his own DNA. He doesn't love actors who show you they're acting. He loves actors who make you forget acting exists. That's why these names survived every era of his life. Now I want to hear your 7th pick. Who belongs in Eastwood's pantheon but didn't make the 6? Brando? Wayne? Stewart? Or someone modern who carries that same quiet fire? Drop it in the comments and tell me which performance on this list still hits you hardest.